Okay, so this is Excel Activity 10, and we are, for the most part, going to review skills that we have already learned with a couple of new ones, or at least one new one that's added in. And the first thing we want to do is I want you to be able to see all the comments that I've made. So you want to be able to view your comments. So you'll come over here under View and click the View tab. And actually, that is not View, but it's Review. View is going to affect the way things appear on the monitor, but review is comments for the document itself. So you actually go to review and you want to come over here and click show comments. And again, you'll see the cells that have got the little red marker in the upper right hand corner, and then that will show you a list of all the comments that I have made to this document. So the first thing we're going to do is start by doing a little formatting of cells right here. In the cell right here, we want to auto fit all columns to width. Now again, this is something that's going to work a little bit different probably on the online version than the desktop version. So I want you to come over here, and if you'll click this button right here, this will select all. And then all you need to do is to double click the right border of any column, and then that should make all columns equal to the width of the longest entry. So just want to double click it, and you see how this column right here, how it got wider, and now I can see everything that's in here. That text is no longer cut off because the column is now wide enough to display its contents. So the next thing we want to do is to format these cells right here as currency. We're talking about prices of goods. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and select these cells, and we're just going to go ahead and select all of these cells. And we're going to go under the Home tab. And again, we want to format this as currency. That's what, and by the way, if you look at the comment, I've got the comment actually in cell G8. But if you format the cells as currency here, it'll automatically be formatted as currency in these green cells that you see here. So we just want to come over here under the Home tab and go under the drop down menu, and we want to select currency. And currency by default displays a $sign, and it shows 2 decimals. And if you wanted it to show no decimals or 3 decimals or whatever, you can go under the increase or decrease decimal buttons that are up here, but we do want them at 2. So now we want to come over here and we want to put in the dollar markup. Now, so the dollar markup, again, this is in cell G8, and it says that is the selling price minus the unit cost. So we're going to put a formula in here, and as you can see, I've got an equal sign in here because all formulas start with an equal sign. So you put in equals, and the selling price is in cell F8, and then minus the unit cost, which is in E8. Now again, you can use the point and click method as I just did, or you could actually type in equals F8 minus E8. You're going to get the same result. So then I hit enter, and you see that you get a markup value of $105.60. So the next thing you need to do is to drag this all the way down through these other green cells. And I mean, this is one of those things where you could even come through these 2 white cells right here, and then you can go back and delete the contents of those 2 white cells that have nothing in them. So I'm just going to select those, and then you also could have, I hit the delete key on my keyboard, you could just as easily select those 2 cells and then select clear all. And let's see here. Well, let me also click clear formats. Okay, well, it's not even going to let me do it like that. I guess what I'm going to have to do is to go back under the fill the font color, the fill color button, and go back and select no fill. Now again, I'm using the online version to teach you this, and the desktop version, it always works a little bit differently. So some of the things that I'm used to doing on the desktop version may not work exactly the same as the online version. And I do want to point out to you that the online version, for a lot of the things that you might need a spreadsheet for, the online version is it's still very adequate for most functions. It's just not for everything that you would typically do, especially if you're trying to earn a certification. All right, so the next thing we'd want to do is to come over here and get a percentage markup. So the comment, and that's in cell H8, so my comment over here for H8 is the dollar markup divided by the unit cost price. All right, so all formulas start with an equal sign, and the dollar markup is in cell G8. So I just want to click on that cell. And then division on a spreadsheet is the slash key. And again, please remember, if you're doing this on a Chromebook, you're not going to have a numeric keypad, which those are the keys that are at the far right hand side of the keyboard. And on the numeric keyboard on a standard laptop, on a standard keyboard, you're going to have your basic math symbols. And now plus and minus, but then the asterisk is multiplication, and then the slash is division. So those keys are already there. So if you're doing this on a traditional keyboard, you'll have that numeric keypad available to you. So anyway, the slash key, if you don't have it, if you're doing this on a Chromebook, slash key is directly to the left of the right shift key. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on the unit cost price, which is in cell E8. So it's G8 divided by E8, and it gives you 0.6. And then the rest of this direction says to format as a percentage to 2 decimals. So up here under the number group, under the home tab, you've got the percentage button. If you click that, and the directions say 2 decimals. So you're going to have to hit increase decimal button twice, because this one it's an even 60% markup. So now what we want to do is to drag this fill handle, and remember you can double click the fill handle. If you do it in this case, what's going to happen is when you get down to row 18, it's going to stop. It's not going to continue down to 20. And even down here in row 18, it gets an error message because it sees text over here, but it's not finding numbers. And that's okay. Again, I just wanted to demonstrate what would happen. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag that fill handle on down through here. And I want to try this one more time. I want to select these 2 cells right here, and then I want to go under the clear, and I want to select clear all. And see, in this case, it actually worked for me, and I think the reason why it didn't work for me the first time is because out of habit, I deleted the contents of the cells manually, and I think that affected my ability to use that clear all function. So you see that these are now clear. And again, so down here you get the percentages, and in this case all of these are even numbers, so there really isn't a need to round to 2 decimal places. But here's the thing, if any of these numbers were to change, then you would you would see these as a percentage. So for example, if you were to come over here and make the selling price not $281.60, well, what if it were $285 even? Well, when I change that number, notice how these numbers over here automatically change, and now this is automatically updates, and it shows you that this is now 61.93% markup. And again, one of the reasons that you use spreadsheets to start is because you would want to see what would happen if one of the variable factors that you're looking at, all this data, if it changed. So I want to hit the undo key just to get that to go back. And got a couple more little things we need to do here to this activity. Now down here we've got these yellow cells. And if I roll over that in these two yellow cells that you see, you want to use a count function. And the count function is a little bit different. It's very different actually than the sum function, but it is frequently confused. And the count function just counts the number of cells that contains data. And it could be numbers, it could be text, it could be as long as there's data of some type in here. And again, if you look at this, it's kind of easy to look at this and manually count up that this particular group for interior accessories. You could go and just count 1, 2, 3, all the way down here, and you'd find that you would have 9 items down here. But the count function, what if it were 900 items or 9,000 items? And depending upon your spreadsheet, it might be that many. So you could put in a count function and it'll automatically calculate this for you. So what I want to do is I want to put in equals, and I want to type in the word count. And you will notice that there's a couple of other variations on here. There's count A and there's count blank. Count blank will count the number of cells that are blank, and then count A will count the number of cells in a range that are not empty. And you would do that if you were counting cells that had text. So, again, here everything's got numbers in it, but what if I was asking you to count function in this cell? Matter of fact, I'll do it just to show you what would happen. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this out first. So I want to put in a count and then a left parenthesis, and then I want to select these cells right here, B8 to B17, and I got to put in my closing parenthesis, and I want to hit enter. And then you see that I get 10 right here. Now again, I know it's easy to look at this and manually count, but what would happen if one of these pieces of information went away? What if we stopped carrying this right here for the Mustang? What if we don't have this carrier anymore? Well, then if you were to delete this row, I don't want to hide the row, I want to delete it. And by the way, I just right-clicked on the row header, then this would automatically update to 9. So again, that's why you would want to put a function in here instead of manually counting something up and putting it in there. And again, let me stress that when you're dealing with spreadsheets, you want to put actual numbers in as part of when you can use a function or a formula, use a function or a formula. Don't just type numbers in there, because what would happen if you stopped selling, in this case, a particular accessory? You just saw what would happen. And if you typed the number 10 in here manually, then that it would always say 10, even if you removed this piece of information. So I want to hit the undo button again and bring it back, and you see how this automatically recalculates right back to 10. So then down here we want to do the exact same thing. We want to put another count function in here. Then I got to put in a left parenthesis. Then I want to select the cells that are directly above it. Then I want to hit enter. All right, so earlier I was talking about, the difference between count and count A. So I'm going to just copy this formula over to this cell, and look what happens here. You get 0, because the count function only counts cells that contain numbers, okay, or that it starts with numbers. This is not number, it's text. So if you had text and or numbers, you couldn't use count. You could come up here into the formula bar, and I'm going to type the A in after that. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. I'm going to hit enter, and now that changes to 10, because count A will actually look for cells not only that it has numbers, but also that it has text in it. So count A might really be, and by the way, I just hit Control Z on my keyboard a couple of times to get that to go away. Count A may be the way to go. I mean, you could always use count A, but on a certification exam, if they were to tell you to use the function that returns the number of exterior accessories sold, because they mention number. If you're talking about numbers here, you would want to use the count function. So again, that's one of those on a certification exam. You have to read your question really carefully, and I don't really know on the exam if it makes a difference and I know you're not taking the exam, but I don't know if it makes a difference if you use count or count A, because either one would be correct. So always look at the phrasing if you ever take a certification exam. So we're done with our formulas and functions. So now we just want to do a little formatting with this. I want you to select cells A1 through H1. Then under the Home tab, I want you to click Merge and Center. And then I want you to come over here under Cell Styles and apply a title style to this. And by the way, I should have told you early on, make sure that you click this button right here to collapse the ribbon or to expand the ribbon. That way you can see all of your buttons up here. And want to select A2 through H2, and I'm going to repeat the process, but this time instead of a title, we're going to use let's use a 20% accent 6 on light green. So we'll just leave it like that. And one of the other things that I would do for this particular activity is I would select these cells that have got these headings in them. Because we're talking about text, I would align those in the center. So up here under the alignment group, you would click the Align Center button, and then it makes it so this text is a little bit easier to read. And as far as I'm concerned, at this point, you're done with this activity. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.